This is the website for IrishGenealogy.ie. It was originally created to store the church records for the Diocese of Kerry and Cork and Ross. If we click on church records, though, it has extended the type of records that it does cover. So the first thing that you should do with any website is figure out what actually is on it. If we click here for a list of the parishes, what we'll find is that in addition to the Cork and Ross and Kerry Roman Catholic records that it began with, it's also added Church of Ireland records for Kerry. And in Dublin City, this is not the whole county of Dublin, but just Dublin City, Church of Ireland Presbyterian and Roman Catholic records, as well as Church of Ireland records for Carlow. Now, if I select Kerry Roman Catholic records, what it will do is give me a list of all of the various parishes that are in Kerry, and it's important for you to check here to make sure that the parish that your ancestor had come from has records and that they cover the time frame that you're looking for. So for example, some of these start very early. We've got a couple here from 1770, very early for Roman Catholic records. But we have others that don't start until quite a bit later, 1844. So there's no point in searching the records if the records for the area where your ancestor was living don't cover the time frame when he was there. So always check to make sure of that. Now let's go back and search for Jeremiah Dennehy. And I'm not at this point going to type in a location or a year range, just so you can see how you can filter the sources. It does ask you to confirm that you're not a bot, that you're not going to be stealing all of the records off of this site. And as you can see, I've got 388 records here for Jeremiah. Now, it will pick up Jeremiah not only as the primary name, such as the person that was baptized or married, but it will also pick up that name if in fact they were a sponsor for another child. So at this point, let's go in and look at the baptisms, and you can see that they're all listed here, but I have the ability to filter the records. So if I'm looking for someone in Kerry, and I do know the name of the parish that they had come from, I can click it here and select it. I can also select the time frame. So for example, if I'm looking in the 1800s and I'm looking for somebody in 1840, I can get all of the people that match that criteria from 1840 to 1850. So as you can see here, I'm not getting in that time frame any Jeremiahs. But if I look at this record, you can see that the father in this case was Jeremiah. So let's take a look at that record. For James Dennehy, baptized on the 20th of August 1847, and his father was Jeremiah Dennehy and his mother was Julia McMahon. I also get the names of the sponsors, and this is a transcription. I don't get an image of the record, but because I have the date of the event, and in this case the baptism on the 20th of August 1847, it would be very easy to go to the National Library site and actually pull up the records for this particular parish and then filter to August of 1847 and find the image of this record. You could also select by marriage. You won't find deaths for Roman Catholics during this time frame. It's very rare that they would have been kept. Now, I'm going to jump over to civil records because that's where we have just really have changed the way that we do research in Ireland. In this case, I'm going to type in the name of Michael Daly, and I do happen to know that the registration district is Clare Morris. And I'm going to look for between 1885 and 1890 a birth and search. Now again, it's going to ask me to make sure that I'm not going to steal all of their records, and it does ask that I confirm that I've read the requirements, which basically are I'm not going to download this whole thing and put it up on my website. So in this case, I type in my name, and it does require that you do this each time that you log into the site and submit it. And what I get are a list of the two Michael Dailies, both of whom were baptized in 1886 in Claremorris. Now, under the old system, I'd be sitting here going, which one is mine? And probably end up purchasing both of them. But this is a free website, and now I can click on the name, and it gives me a transcription of the information. Do note that the group registration ID has replaced the quarter, volume, and page number. But when I click on image, I get an image of the page of the registrations that that name occurs on. Now notice that Claremorris is the Superintendent Registrar's District. It's the same thing as the Poor Law Union, and Ballandine is the Registrar's District. I think there are 5 different registrar districts, all of which would roll up to Claremorris, which is how the records are kept. They're kept by the Superintendent Registrar's District. And if I scan down here through here, as I recall, there's Michael, born on the 23rd of August in 1886. His father was Michael Daly of Killeen, and his mother was Bridget Daly. Her maiden name was Cassidy. Now, that's not mine. That's not the one that I'm looking for. And again, it's always important that you have a corroborating detail, the name of the parents, so you know whether you have the right one. You don't want to have those former ancestors, which are the ones you research for years only to find out you've gotten into the wrong family. So let me go back and select the other one, the other Michael Daly. And again, I get the same information, and when I click on image, it takes me to the page. Interesting, they were both the very last one on the page. And on the 20th of December, 1886, Michael was the son of John Daly of Crumlin and Mary Daly, formerly Morley. And his father did the registration. Notice that he signed with his mark. He couldn't read or write. So that's the one I want. Now, what I do at this point, I'm a Mac user, I'm just going to select this area of the screen, and I'm going to just grab that and save it so I can have it in my records. So that's how you search for a birth. Let's go back here and do a new search. And in this case, I'm going to search for John Daly, also in Claremorris, between 1870 and 1880. And this time I'm going to look for a marriage record. And we have 2 John Dalys that were married. These are actually the same person. John Daly was actually married 3 times, but his first wife, the record for his first wife was before 1864, and so I don't have that registration. But this is the John Daly and Mary Morley that were the parents of the Michael Daly that I was looking for. So again, I can select that. Again, using the group registration ID, I use that for my source citation, and I can look at the image of the marriage record. Now, in the marriage record, which I have right here, on the 24th of February in 1879, John Daly, of full age, so I don't have his exact age, all I know is that he was over 21. He was a widower, farmer of Crumlin. His father was John Daly, who is dead. So we know that John died sometime before 1879, we might still be able to find his death record. And Mary Morley, again over 21, she was a spinster, which simply means that she hadn't been married before, from Lysanisca. And her father was Thomas Morley, also dead at this time. Both of them were farmers. I get that they were married in the Roman Catholic chapel of Bacon, and according to the rites of the Roman Catholic Church, and this is the name of the priest that married them. The sponsor or the witnesses to the marriage were James Sheridan and Bridget Lyons. So I get quite a bit of information here. One of the reasons that I have even the church registration of their marriage is that because she was from the parish of Bacon, which is just north of Kilvine, where John Daly lived, the church records go back to 1832, where in Kilvine they don't start until 1870. So, big difference in terms of the time periods. So that's what I get in a marriage record. And let's go back and let's look at another, we'll do another search, go back down here and start a new search. And in this case, I'm going to search for Catherine Martin in the Civil Registration District of Carrick-Macross, which is up in County Monaghan, and I'm going to look for her between 1889 and 1895. And this time I'm going to look for a death record. So when I search, I come up with two records again. Now, one of the things about death records, especially if you have a large number of them and you're not, because you have a larger date range, one of the things that you'll see in the index is the deceased's age at death. This one was 75, this was 37. Well, I know that Catherine died quite young, so I'm going to look at this one. And again, the group registration ID, the registration district, and I'll go to the image and I'll scroll down, and here's Catherine Martin right here. So she died the 1st of January 1890, and she was married, 37 years old. There's not a lot of information in death records, so you're always hoping that either through the informant or through some of the information here, you can figure out if you have the right person. She was the wife of Patrick Martin, a carpenter. That's great information because especially in this area, there were so many Martins. And this distinguishes this Patrick. He wasn't Patrick the farmer, he was Patrick the carpenter. She died probably of disability after labor, and in fact, my husband's grandmother was born on the 31st of December, 1889, and her mother died the next day. Patrick also could not read or write. He made his mark. He was the widower of the deceased, and from Dua. So I know that I've got the right one. So the ability to go in here and build your tree based on working back and forth between birth, marriage, and death records. If you find a birth record for your ancestor, then you can move back to look for his parents' marriage. If there was a death, again, you can look at that. You might be able to move back and find more information about the family based on the age at death. So I hope this gives you an idea of how to use this wonderful website. Again, it's Irish Genealogy. And it is a completely free site, so this gives you the opportunity to not only look for your direct ancestors, but sometimes it's very helpful to fill out the family information and all of the collaterals by finding marriage, and then especially if it's a female that marries, then her marriage and the birth of her children. That can be very helpful when you're trying to identify surnames in your DNA research as well. So I hope you enjoy working with Irish Genealogy. It's probably one of the major sites that I use almost every day.